Now that you've had an opportunity to complete the task assignment and answer the questions on page 13 and 14, why don't we take an opportunity to discuss the questions on page 13 and 14? I believe we began with effective learning, and effective learning consists of helping individuals address the fact that attitude affects your behavior.
And for attitude, we expect that the Red Cross Disaster Services workers will be sensitive to the needs and the feelings of both their co-workers and their disaster clients, and that they will respect and understand that the clients have undergone a loss.
And that leads us to cognitive learning. Cognitive learning consists of information such as facts.
And some of the facts and concepts that we present in Red Cross disaster courses are the fundamental principles of the International Red Cross movement and also the Disaster Services Program ARC 3000 series.
That brings us to behavioral learning, which consists of simply applying the skills that we've learned.
And we have ample opportunity to apply skills in Red Cross disaster courses through tasks and exercises.
Disaster services courses are designed to meet the wide variety of learning styles that exist. Some people like hearing about something before they actually do it, and they're going to be very receptive to an instructor's presentation. Some people like reading about something before they do it, while others like to have a demonstration of how something is done before they actually attempt it themselves. And then there are those that just want to jump right in and learn by doing.
And then we have MARS. The M in MARS stands for motivation. A student that is motivated is an active participant. The A stands for association. It's easier for me to learn something if I can associate it with something I already know. And the R in MARS stands for repetition. Sometimes I don't understand a concept the first time I hear it, but it's repeated in a different way. I might get it the second time. And then there's S. S stands for senses. Learning is facilitated when I involve all of my senses, when I can hear, see, feel, taste, and even smell sometimes.
In this segment, we've learned the factors that contribute to adult learning. Recognizing the differences in learner motivation and need is an important goal of the disaster instructor. Now we're going to build on that foundation. We're going to learn some of the actions that an instructor facilitator can take in the classroom. We're also going to learn some communication skills as well as functions of the disaster instructor like climate setting and summarizing.
Regardless of the structure of the course or the content, there are some activities that instructors do in every course. These are the basic instructor functions.
There are 5 basic instructor functions. Climate setting is setting the stage at the beginning of the teaching experience to provide a framework in which effective learning can take place. Examples include providing name tags for students, greeting students as they arrive, welcoming the students, and introducing yourself and your co-instructor.
Thank you. If you can grab your seats and we can get the show on the road, as they say. Thank you very much for showing up today. Good morning and welcome to Disaster Welfare Inquiry, Connecting Your Community. My name is Louis Garcia, and a little bit about my background. I've been with the Red Cross now for about 10 years, give or take a few years. I'm also a member of the DSHR system in the administrative track, directing operations, being an assistant director. My co-instructor, Tisha Woodard. Tisha, a little bit about yourself.
Well, good morning. Again, my name is Tisha Woodard. I live here in the Northern Virginia area. And like Louis, I've been with the Red Cross for about 10 years. I'm a training officer in the DSHR system, and I've seen some of you out on jobs before, so it's nice to see familiar faces. We're glad you're here today, and I think we'll get to know a lot about each other. So,
wonderful. A couple of things that I want to cover before we get the course started. Number one, the housekeeping details. A couple of things there. Very important for everybody probably here throughout the day is the restrooms. The restrooms are located downstairs on the first floor. As you go down the stairway, as soon as you get off of the stairwell, they're right in front of you. The second issue is also very important in the event that there's an emergency, is the emergency exits. We have a couple outside of the doorway, and we have several in here within the room. The ones outside, basically you want to go down the stairwell, outside through the front door. There's no smoking allowed in this building. It's a non-smoking building, so if those of you that have the urge to smoke, please don't do it during the class, number one. And number two, you're allowed to smoke outside the building at the side. Not at the front of the building, but at the side of the building. Second issue that I want to cover is the workbook itself, broken out into two sections. The first section being what we call the ready reference section, or it's information that will be useful to you once you go back to your chapter. So it's information that would be very useful, and once you get the opportunity, you'll be able to refer back to it. The second section of the book is the actual course materials themselves. They'll be talking about the course purpose and the course objectives, and Tisha will take you through that process. So,
okay, as a
Covering
prerequisite
purpose
to this
and
course,
objectives is the next part of setting the stage for learning.
And in that particular course, we got a really good overview of all of disaster services and the different functions on a relief operation, which disaster welfare inquiry is one of them. The course will prepare you to handle disaster welfare inquiries in your local chapter. That is our focus. The course objectives, what we hope to accomplish today, is to describe the service provided by the disaster welfare inquiry function, to provide quality service to clients. And we're going to talk a lot about quality service later on this morning. Very important in everything we do. You'll learn how to conduct an effective interview and complete the appropriate forms for the disaster welfare inquiries. Also, you'll learn how to transmit an initial inquiry and what kind of follow-up information you'll need. You'll learn how to provide the follow-up that will ensure that the inquirer's needs have been met. And that may be actually transmitting the inquiry, or it may just be giving them some information about the disaster relief operation itself. The course itself is laid out in 5 segments, just so you know where we are throughout the day. Segment 1, where we are now, is the course overview. Segment 2 is the introduction to disaster welfare inquiry. Segment 3 is handling the inquiry at your chapter. Segment 4, transmitting the inquiry and staying in touch, which is really important. We'll talk about that. And then segment 5 will summarize the course and what we've accomplished.
Having students
Any
introduce
questions so
themselves
far?
is the last important step in
Okay.
climate setting.
Well, now you learned a little bit about Lewis and I and about the course, so now we'd like to get to know you a little bit better. So perhaps if you could just give us your name, your chapter. I know all of you aren't from the local chapter, and maybe a little bit about what you've done in disaster services. Could we start over here?
Sure, Tisha. My name's Kitty Hess, and I live in this local area. And actually, I'm also a trainer, and that's what I do when I go out on disaster assignment. But I've never taken this class, so I'm glad to be here.
Assigning tasks is an instructor function performed whenever students are asked to do an activity. For example, the task may be an exercise, a game, or a discussion.
okay, as a way of bringing everything together that we've learned today, we want to take an opportunity to do a team exercise. Basically, what we're going to do in this exercise is read over some situations which are on page 37. So if you can open up your books to page 37, please. Page 37 through 40 are 4 situations that we have that are probably situations that you may encounter back at your chapter. What I'm going to do...
Task assignments are sometimes supported by newsprint. Bridging is linking ideas from one section of the course to another and supports learning by association. It connects ideas. Bridging helps learners experience a logical progression or flow from one concept to another. This is done by describing ideas that relate to the previous learning experiences.
Now, in this section, we've talked about conducting the interview and about providing good service and about completing the inquiry for transmittal. We're going to take a short 10-minute break, and then after that we're going to come back. We're going to talk about DWI function on a relief operation and the information you need to conduct the follow-up to be sure that the caller's needs are met.
Intervening is stepping in during the course to ensure positive learning outcomes. This is accomplished by keeping the subject on track.
Devin, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out, how do you handle phone calls from irate callers?
That's a great question. And we want you to be as prepared as possible and as comfortable as possible when you take those first calls. And we're going to have a practice interview in the segment 3 where we talk about conducting an interview. So let's go to, when we get to that segment, let me know if you don't quite feel comfortable with it, and then we can go back over it. Is that okay? Okay. Now remember, you may also be staying in touch with the families while you're waiting for the inquiry.
Other interventions include clarifying a point, redirecting, strengthening, or modifying the learning process, providing feedback and an opportunity to ventilate feelings.
By keeping in touch with the inquirer, you would be able to provide him updates about the disaster operation through disaster welfare inquiry bulletins, through chapter information bulletins.
Yeah, but you know, when there is a disaster, there's so many welfare inquiries, and people just don't call back, and that doubles your workload.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that we look at is to have individuals try and call us back, but you have to remember that one of the responsibilities that we have is to be able to share that information with the families.
In closing a session or segment of a course, summarizing is used to clarify the key learning concepts or objective presented, or in some cases, to test for learning. This action helps to reinforce learning and gives a sense of closure to a segment or topic.
Now in this section we've talked about transmitting the inquiry and the value of staying in touch. In this unit we looked at providing good service, conducting the interview, and completing the inquiry for transmittal.
Together, the functions of climate setting, assigning tasks, bridging, intervening, and summarizing are the basic instructor functions.
In addition to the basic instructor functions, there are some other skills that can really help you in the classroom. To be an effective instructor, you need communication skills that include careful listening, speaking clearly in a well-modulated voice, and using reinforcing body language. Pages 15 through 26 in your workbook provide in-depth information about these topics. And now, a task assignment. Read this segment, complete and review the questions on page 27, and do the skills practice on page 28.